Jedburgh, lovely country town, down-to-earth folk away from the corrupting influences of the city, one might have hoped, but Scotland's world-leading LGBT inclusive education reaches all corners of the land. So in this video I'm going to start off looking at the utter filth that Jedburgh Grammar School is delivering right to the heart of that community, in fact to the children. And when you watch this you might think, is this worse than the perverted drag act that Dunbar Grammar School was going to have in? About Renfrew High School promoting relationships between two girls and one boy? Is it worse than John Swinney's disgusting sex education materials? Well, you'll just have to judge for yourself. Let's hear from Jedburgh Grammar School head teacher Mrs. Oliver.
We've decided over the next few weeks to look at the core values that we agreed earlier this session, and this week we asked you to tell us about what you've been learning and how you've been learning.
So what have pupils been learning about? Let's go to the website of your school, Mrs. Oliver, and have a look. There's an LGBT page which links to an LGBT history page, and at the bottom it says, we have been learning about Polari. Now, I'd never heard of that, but of course you probably haven't either, but that's because we didn't benefit from LGBT inclusive education. So here's a little image of it. When it was illegal to be gay, LGBT plus people had to talk in code to avoid persecution. This gave birth to a secret language of Polari. Click here to find out more. And the link takes you to the Wikipedia page, which includes a big dictionary of how to translate from Polari into English. And then there's a video to watch. Oh, what fun. A video that's basically in English, but it's got lots of these different Polari words in, and we've got a dictionary so we can translate it. So let's try and translate it, shall we? The video is only short, about 6 minutes. This is real interdisciplinary learning. History, modern languages, all coming together. I mean, to be honest, this task isn't too hard for the children, because there's a full translation at the top of the comments for the YouTube video, endorsed by the people who made the video. So, boys and girls at Jedburgh Grammar School, let's see what it's all about, shall we? So the title, Putting on the Dish. Let's look in the dictionary. Where are we? Dilly boy, male prostitute, no, it's not right, dish, buttocks. Okay. Right, so there's the title. On we go.
She's been a real boner over. Blowing the groundsels, ling-grappling dilly boys, trolling the back slums. She had to be battered twice last month.
She didn't.
Pauline's a stretcher case. Trolled in one notch, he devoured a Phyllis plate and some shin bars she blagged in the brandy latch.
Dish the dirt.
It's all over grumble for Pauline. Nanti Denali up to her elbow in the national handbag. She'd only just gone in for a remould. Had to refake her entire basket.
This is probably the point to advise viewer discretion. If you don't want to hear the absolutely disgusting filth that Jedburgh Grammar School is presenting to its pupils, you might want to jump over this first section of the video. Jump over for a few minutes. So here we go. Here's the translation. The two men in the video, they refer to each other by women's names. They refer to other men as she as well. But it starts off, one of them says, "Oh no, haven't you heard? He's been a real whore. Sleeping around, picking up hustlers, trolling the back alleys. He's actually had to be treated for sexually transmitted diseases on 2 separate occasions last month. He didn't. Pauline's a complete wreck. Came home one night to find Phyllis blowing a Chinese guy he picked up in a toilet. Tell me more. It's not looking good for Pauline. Broke on the dole. He went in for a sex change and they had to redo the procedure."
Speaking of baskets.
Oh, Gloria. That stretcher corribungus.
Fortuny.
Mind you, it's the dolly ones that disappoint. I was seeing this HP from Sheffield once. Plates the size of bowling pins, thought it was in for a right boner chalvering.
Nada Tavada in the larder.
Oh, bijou. You needn't put the brandy on for that, I said when I saw it. Mind you, she was heavy on the lech water. Had to use the Daz to get a Maria out my libbage.
Oh, vile.
So they just watched a man walk by, and one of them says, "Speaking of genitals," the other one replies, "That would stretch your anus. I can only hope. Mind you, the handsome ones do disappoint. Now this next section, I don't even want to read it. Jedburgh Grammar School, it's so disgusting, I don't even want these words to come out of my mouth on a video, so I'll just show the text on the screen. Vile, yes, indeed, it is. Now, John Swinney, you're probably delighted with this. This, again, is real cross-curricular learning. This is tying in with some of the themes that you want to teach in high school. I mean, anal sex is a theme right from 12-year-olds upwards, or lube, etc. That's all there in your curriculum that you commend to every school, isn't it?
She's always been that way then, Phyllis.
She's a walking meat rack. Fantabulo's a bit of hard. We used to act dicky together at the Crocus Chovy. Noshed me off once while I was giving her fungus his drabs.
That's skill, that.
Well, she used to do it all the time. When we were at the exchange together, she'd one lil on me collar, the other on the switch. Never even got off the Polari pipe.
Again, this section, I don't want to read it out. You can just read it for yourself.
Nearly got nabbed myself the other week. I just finished plating this chicken in the cottage Ajax Clackett Lane, you know the one. Anyway, I'm mincing outside, wiping my screech. And who should I bump into? But one of your orderly daughters.
So, Mrs. Oliver, I think you should be responsible for what's on your school's website. Did you ever look at what goes on your website? I mean, I assume a member of staff put it on. Didn't you know what it was? Did they not know what it was? I mean, what do you think these men are going to be talking about in this secret gay language? The weather? Football? Surely you would want to check. And it was pretty easy to check since the full translation was right there underneath the video. Now, when you say, we have been learning about Polari, it seems obvious that there must have been some translating going on with the pupils as well. But as usual, it seems as soon as the LGBT label goes on something, all the usual standards of decency go out the window, and we've seen that happen again and again. Now, who should be most annoyed by this should be gay men who have been portrayed here as promiscuous, vulgar, and sex-obsessed. So is that really the portrayal of gay men they want to give to young people? Well, it seems like it is. So who put this up there? You can imagine what's happened. What happens in schools is they want to have someone to do the LGBT stuff because they get a pat on the head from the government if they do that. So who's going to do it? Who volunteers? Someone with an axe to grind, someone with a real agenda to promote within the school. They've often got dubious values themselves, but they're given free rein to promote their view to the entire school community. I would say here at Jedburgh Grammar School, were there any sort of decent staff who were aware of this, been horrified by it? Did they do something about it? Did they go to the head teacher and say, are you sure this is what should be on the school website? Maybe that did happen. Maybe it did. If it did, I could quite imagine that the response from the leadership of the school would have been, I hope you're not being homophobic, and they would just ignore it. Because you're not going to get into trouble for putting that sort of filth on your website, whereas you get a pat on the head for having all the rainbows and as much LGBT stuff as possible. So we'll be making reports about this to John Swinney. I'm going to write to him and ask him for his view, to Education Scotland, and also to the General Teaching Council for Scotland, because a registered teacher has seen that, thought that was fit to put on the school website, so they should be held accountable for that. So if the head teacher is going to plead ignorance, then we'll need to know who did actually put it there. I mean, to be honest, if you're the teacher that put that on the website, or if you're Mrs. Oliver, I wouldn't worry. I mean, the Scottish educational establishment is so united and so politically correct and woke that you won't be in any trouble. They won't really care. Right, we'll also pass it on to the media. Maybe a newspaper or two might be interested in running the story. Let's see. Right, what else happens at Jedburgh Grammar School? They have LGBT History Month, of course. Here's some staff wearing purple. Quite interesting. Look at the chap on the left. Got his head in his hands. It almost looks as if he came in a purple jumper by mistake that day and got dragged into the photograph. But probably not. He's probably further in his career like the rest of them. Right, moving on. Let's look at the Jedburgh Grammar School LGBT page. There's lots of things here. So let's look at a video that's entitled Coming Out Duet. Now, as far as I can tell, these seem to be two Jedburgh Grammar School pupils who are named on the school website. And in the video I'm going to show you, I've blanked out the faces on the school website. They're not blanked out. It's there for the whole world to see.
Oh yeah, we're coming out. Happy coming out day. Happy coming out. I want the world to know. Got to let it show. I'm coming out. Have you heard of LGBTQ+? Well, I am the L. really like it. So basically, I'm pansexual. I'm lesbian. I thought you were American. Shut up. Go on. Bisexual. Bye, Felicia. Bisexual. All right. Bye. Bye.
So you get the message there. What the school is celebrating and presenting here is the fact that these two girls have experimented, and they're normalising that process. Is that what parents want? The kids to be given the message, you can experiment, try sex with one sort of person, another sort of person. It's up to you. This is what you do at school. Then you declare yourself to have a certain sexual identity. I think this whole idea of presenting school pupils to the world in this way is just wrong. This is very personal information. They might regret it. They might be embarrassed by it when they're older. And yet the school's not interested in that. They're just interested in using the pupils as pawns in order to promote the LGBT agenda. Now these pupils, they might need some sort of support, but what they don't need is parading in front of the world like this. Now we had similar things going on at Jedburgh Grammar School. I wrote to Education Scotland about that, and they replied with just some standard lawyer waffle. Basically they couldn't care less. The pupils' personal, extremely sensitive personal information was being posted on the internet by schools. Right, let's look at the next video on their website.
So, tell me what's on your mind.
Gay people bother me.
Is it because they dress better than you?
Because they're destroying the planet.
Uh-huh, interesting. I thought that was plastic bottles. Silly me. What makes you say that?
Look, it was Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve.
Oh, I see what you did there, Dr. Seuss. Very nice. Adam, Eve, Steve, very nice.
Here's the thing though, I fail to see the relevance because it's also Ellen and Portia, not Ellen and Michael.
Oh, but that didn't rhyme. Is that okay? Do you still get it?
Look, they're going against God.
Really? And how does it feel to get updates from God? Yeah, does God text you or is God more of a DM person?
I just know what God intended.
And when your friend God texts you a meme, are you all like, oh my God?
It's a sin.
Ooh, or when you say, God damn it, does God ever reply like, I can't, I'm busy? Oh, wow, you're so religiously woke.
Marriage has always been between a man and a woman.
And voting used to only be between a white man and the government. Things changed.
Right, this video should have no place at all in education, because within it there's no attempt to understand the other side of the argument. It just presents straw men one after another. It's not about argument and engagement, it's about mockery. You can see all the usual stereotypings. It's American, so the baddie's obviously got to have this sort of southern accent. And basically the message of this video is to ridicule the views of the mainstream world religions. Now I'm happy for people to do that if they want to, on the internet or wherever else, but this has been presented in a school as a teaching material.
I don't get it. If you want to protect marriage, why don't you protest against divorce? I mean, I don't think that's a good idea, but I'm just really trying to understand your obsession.
I am not obsessed, you little.
You know, swearing really makes your point more valid.
You are such you little.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Yeah, I'm really hearing you now. Maybe try swearing in caps lock.
All you need to shut up.
Really smart stuff. Do you feel better?
You make me sick to my stomach.
Here, for your little upset tum-tum. Don't let the rainbows bite.
I mean, the narrative's hardly subtle, is it? Intelligent, nice person versus stupid bigot. And the stereotype is so crude, I would say, as to be inciting prejudice. So the message is, we're nice, but those people at the mosque and the church or wherever else, they're really bad and they're really stupid.
But your opinion and similar ideas contribute to actual laws being made against gay people. So if you have an opinion about pineapple on pizza, I don't care. But it's illegal to be gay in some countries. Imagine if the government took away your right to be yourself. However would you douchebag about?
It's just unnatural.
So are your boobs, eyelashes, and highlights. You don't get to decide what's natural, contour queen.
Typical leftist.
Oh no, sweetheart. This isn't a left or right thing. It's more so a right or wrong thing.
Are you saying I'm wrong for being homophobic?
No, I don't really like the term homophobic. It implies that you have some sort of phobia, whereas I think you're just a jerk.
Standard old argument is completely wrong. They're saying that believing that homosexual sex is either not natural or morally acceptable is bad because it leads to criminalization. That obviously is just not true. For example, someone can believe that adultery is a bad thing, but they don't believe it should be a criminal offence or any other sort of offence.
Oh, I'm sorry, were you talking? I was busy tweeting.
Here's what I think the problem is. You feel entitled to such an extent that you think you can dictate people's lives. You and everyone else that's gonna leave a hate comment underneath this video. To prove your point, you pick pieces of ancient text and ignore facts and figures from today. People with human compassion, critical thinking skills, and at least one hobby to fill their time don't really care if two men are dating. They're too busy doing things. And I know it's scary, but if you opened your mind half as much as you opened your mouth, we'd all be in a better place.
You're wrong.
I'd like to prescribe you with a bottle of common sense. Okay, please take 2 tablets daily while listening to Sam Smith. Side effects may include minding your own damn business.
It sounds complicated. Should we, maybe discuss it over dinner?
Just say.
So this video is insulting and offensive, but that's okay. If you've got the message, kids, it's okay to be insulting and offensive as long as it's towards the right people. Now, they mock the idea of taking God's revelation from ancient texts, so that's striking at the heart of belief of obviously most Christians, Muslims, people of other religions as well. Then it finishes with that standard line that the reason people get uptight about homosexuality is really because they're homosexual themselves. So it reveals at the end that the girl is really a lesbian and her sexuality is repressed or whatever. So there's a whole video is right on the LGBT activist script. Now let's just move on and look at something from Jedburgh Grammar School's Lockdown TV YouTube channel.
So, what are we focusing on today? Well, here's the virtual Mrs. Keddy with a clue. Cool, so we're focusing on karaoke. No, number 2. This week's theme is respect. And on that subject, Mr. Dalrymple has a question for everyone.
I know what respect means to me, but what does it mean to you? If I told you, that'd be too easy. And anyway, it doesn't matter. What it means to you is what matters. Because if it means something to you, then it counts for something.
Oh, respect. What does respect mean to me? Well, respect means to me that you treat people fairly. You try and understand what they think and engage with it. You don't just leap to lazy conclusions like I'm nicer and I'm smarter, that's why we disagree. I think respect involves not deliberately misrepresenting the views of other people. I think respect involves not trying to demonize other people, trying to stir up hostility against them. Now, Jedburgh Grammar School, practice what you preach and remove that video because it is disrespectful. Treat social conservatives, traditionalists, mainstream religious believers with respect. Or does your definition not include them? What else have we got on the school's website? We've got the LGBTI cultural calendar. Let's see what's on that. 27th of January, Holocaust Memorial Day. February, LGBT History Month. Last Friday of February, Purple Friday. 8th of March, International Women's Day. 31st of March, International Transgender Day of Visibility. May, Mental Health Awareness Week. 17th of May, International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia and Transphobia. June, Pride Month. 24th of July, Parents' Day, including LGBT parents. What? Oh dear. Anyway, 23rd of September, Bi Visibility Day. 11th of October, Coming Out Day. 26th of October, Intersex Awareness Day. 8th of November, Intersex Day of Solidarity. 14th to 18th, Anti-Bullying Week. 16th of November, International Day of Tolerance. 20th of November, Trans Day of Remembrance. 1st of December, World AIDS Day. 10th of December, Human Rights Day. Wow, there's hardly any time left, is there, for all the other politically correct causes that they need to fit special days in for. And we've got the usual LGBT icon hero stuff. They're honouring the child sex advocate Peter Tatchell, leader of the Scottish Green Party. Obviously, you can present a current political leader to these kids who are old enough to vote as a hero. I don't see any problem with that, do you? well. Tim Hopkins, he's an LGBT campaigner paid for by the taxpayers, worked for various LGBT sock puppet charities. He's in there as a hero. And the last one, Harvey Milk. He was an American politician who sadly was assassinated, and he's honoured here. He's also honoured on a United States of America stamp and also has a warship named after him. Let's have a little look about him. He had a liking for 16-year-old boys. One particular 16-year-old boy in particular was in a relationship with Milk in California, where the age of consent in that state was 18 at the time, and Milk was in his mid-30s. The boys later committed suicide. Friend and biographer Randy Schultz writes that Harvey always had a penchant for young waifs with substance abuse problems. Rose McKinley, a disturbed runaway boy, desperately sought a father figure to provide empathy, compassion, wisdom and direction. He instead found Harvey Milk, a promiscuous sexual predator who found in McKinley an opportunity to satisfy a perverse lust for underage boys. Milk told one lover why it was okay for him to have multiple relationships simultaneously. As homosexuals, we can't depend on the heterosexual model. We grow up with the heterosexual model, but we don't have to follow it. We should be developing our own lifestyle. There's no reason why you can't love more than one person at a time. Right, sources for those things are below. I mean, that's quite relevant to the story of Derek Mackay. Recently, Derek Mackay sort of loses his job, while at the same time, people who did the same and worse, much worse, are promoted as icons in Scottish schools. Now, those materials came from the Thai campaign. The leaders of the Thai campaign, according to the Scottish government's moral ladder, are somewhere above Jesus, somewhere below Nelson Mandela, so you can't possibly even begin to question anything that they come up with. But surely in the school, is there anyone with some critical thinking themselves who can do a bit of research and find out about these people? Well, I think in most schools, sadly, that is not the case.
Today is Rainbow Laces Day. Staff and pupils at Jedburgh Grammar have been putting on their rainbow laces and doing their bit to kick homophobia out of sport.
Whether we're cheering or competing, we are all at our best when we feel part of a team. But 4 in 10 LGBT people don't think sport is welcoming.
Now, these poor kids get it from every direction. Just the message was LGBT are a victim group. 4 out of 10 don't feel welcome in sports. What about asking everyone else? How many of them feel welcome in sports? Well, who knows? They're just trying to push the same old agenda. Right, what's next?
Well, I think being an everyday hero to LGBT people should be something that we hope becomes taken for granted, because it's just the way we live our lives. It's not seen as extraordinary or exceptional, but it's just what all of us do in our everyday lives to make sure that Scotland is the best place in the world to be for LGBT people.
We've received messages from pupils at other schools who felt pressurised by Purple Friday. They felt that they really had to make a donation to LGBT youth, otherwise they'd stand out like a sore thumb as being one of the few wearing their uniform. But here we've got Nicola Sturgeon giving the self-congratulatory message of Purple Friday that year about being a hero. So what's it mean to be an LGBT hero? Does it mean just to treat people decently? No. It means to celebrate, to endorse other people's sexual choices. So basically we've got Nicola Sturgeon here saying, I am a hero. She's saying this to pupils in school. Remember, you can vote at 16 in Scotland. So these pupils might watch Nicola Sturgeon in school one day saying how nice she is, and then the next day there'll be the opportunity to vote for her. And the LGBT group in the school decided that they would give special hero awards to staff and pupils in the school. So the LGBT club given power to anoint saints and pass over sinners in the whole school community. If you're a teacher in that school and you want to give your career a little boost, if you get one of those awards, certainly wouldn't do you any harm, would it? Anyway, let's move on to the school's Wall of Fame on its LGBT section of the website. We've got Mary Black, SNP politician, the one who brought that sort of depraved drag artist into a primary school. Who else we've got? We've got RuPaul, runs a sort of smutty TV show. We've got this fella, I have no idea who he is, but the image looks like something off the front of a gay men's magazine. Not sure that's appropriate. Then we've got this that's been dredged up from sort of ancient history. And what do you think about that image to have on the school website? So to conclude, what will be the reaction to this video from the Scottish educational establishment, the government agencies? Their reaction will be, we're the baddies. We're nasty and we're troublemakers, and the poor school and the poor teachers need defending against this very unfair attack that's been made on them. Another conclusion, sadly, is that if you're trusting your local school to be delivering a wholesome message to your children, then sadly your trust may well be misplaced. In fact, if they're doing anything remotely like the government wants them to be doing, it is misplaced. I suggest you look into it very carefully, or withdraw your children from anything remotely to do with these areas that you can. Now, LGBT Inclusive Education with the SNP's baby, but it floated through the Scottish Parliament with no opposition, not a hint, not a word of opposition from a single MSP, let alone a political party. Whereas what's going on in Scottish schools, like I've shown some examples here, that should be being brought up at First Minister's Question Time, put Nicola Sturgeon on the spot and make this a political issue. There are massive numbers of parents, teachers and pupils who are fed up with it. But that needs leadership for it to become a movement to challenge it. At the moment, the sort of indoctrination and degeneracy is just routine in one school after another. And if you stand up against it, you're a prude, you're old-fashioned, you're homophobic or whatever. Whereas in actual fact, you've probably just got some common decency. Now, if you're thinking, maybe I just don't care. If the government and schools are going to corrupt kids like this, I don't really care. Well, okay, vote for the existing parties in the Scottish Parliament. If you think this is exactly the way education should be, I'm delighted with it, then okay, yeah, vote for the existing parties. But if you want to see change, you need to play a part in that change, either in the background or on the front line of politics. Now, if you're going to support in the background, that's really important, because we need the support and encouragement of people behind us to be on the front line. So the best way to get involved and to support us in this campaign is by joining the Scottish Family Party. We really appreciate it when people do that. You can join or become a regular donor just from £4 a month. Now, you're already supporting campaigners on the other side of the issue, because when you pay your taxes, the Scottish Government gives them to organisations that campaign for viewpoints probably totally the opposite of your own. But that's the situation. So if you've got to change things, you've got to voluntarily support your side of the argument. We've got to change things for the sake of future generations. So please click below and play your part. Thanks for watching.